Welcome to another episode of Candid Moments with Candace Kirkbride. Today I have a special guest. I'm very excited for this. Paul brings to Sudbury more than 34 years of police experience. He has served in progressively senior leadership positions with the York Regional Police Service, including investigative services and community services, and is well known for his contribution to police education, along with highlighting his strong leadership skills. Today, my goal is for you to get to know the man behind the badge. Please help me welcome to the microphone Sudbury's own Police Chief Paul Pederson. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Candace. I hate those bios. I'd much rather you just start off with, "This is Paul. Let's talk."
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? This is Paul. And I know you when you're wearing your badge, and I know the Paul from behind the badge.
Yeah.
So things have changed quite significantly since the last time I saw you. The last time I saw you was November 18th, 2019. I had you on my stage telling the story about how you became the chief in your leadership position.
That was a lot of fun.
That was, yeah. And you were so well received. So today, tell me 3 things that you're grateful for.
Oh, I mean, it starts with grateful that I'm alive, I'm employed, I've got my health. You know, I mean, if there's anything that this pandemic has shown me, it really is the divide between privilege and those who struggle, and I know I'm one of the ones that's privileged. I've got food on my table, I've got a roof over my head, and I can't say how grateful I am for that. That's
amazing. I love it. I'm grateful that it's May. My family is healthy. My nephew lost a tooth last night. Everybody is excited for summer. And I'm happy and healthy, and I'm grateful for this interview today. It helps me focus more on something different than opposed to what is going out there and what we can't control. So I'm not going to focus on, I know it's hard to keep like the pandemic out of it. Like I like COVID-free Fridays sometimes on the radio. That is excellent. But in your role, like one of my questions is going to be about the pandemic. But today is the 11th of May, and it's Police Week. So I think this is so important to highlight that. Can you shed some light on Police Week and what that means to us?
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. It is Police Week. This week in May every year is Police Week in the province. I think it's actually Police Week nationally across the country. The theme this year, and every year it's a little different, but the theme this year is all about keeping communities safe together. You know, again, back to what am I grateful about? I really am grateful about this community here in Sudbury. You know it so much from the work that we did together, you know, around, drinking and driving awareness or anti-drinking and driving awareness. Is the reality is all of the safety that we enjoy in this community is because we work together. It's because citizens look after each other. It's because we take those steps of trying to prevent crime where we can, whether it's locking our car doors or locking our front doors. But even deeper than that, you know, we're a community that cares about the upstream work that's needed to fight the insecurities, you know, so food bank, food shelters, housing, all of those things that, you know, when we talk about community safety together, it's an entire system. This week, Police Week, really allows us as your police service to highlight all of the different components of our organization. You know, you see me and you see most of our people that the public sees are uniform wearing police officers, and absolutely Our dedicated front line are our most visible point of community safety, but it doesn't stop there. We've got investigative units, we've got forensic units, we've got canine units, we've got tactical units, and then we've got a whole suite of other programs and services that are delivered through professionals who aren't wearing uniforms. Our emergency communication center, 911 ECC center, the people that when the public calls 911 are the people that answer. I call them our second front line or our other front line, and they really are the lifeline to the community. We've got non-police officers working in schools, building up trust between young people, reducing risk. And this whole week allows us to talk about exactly what is policing, because policing isn't just enforcement. In fact, and you've heard me say this so many times, enforcement really represents a failure of all of the other systems to hold people accountable.
Amazing. So how has policing changed or pivoted throughout the pandemic? I know that is a loaded question.
Yeah, in many ways, there's been a lot of change for us, and I don't want to say that the impacts have been different than any other profession. Every profession, you talk about when we were doing that night together, and you said it was 2019. Couldn't have predicted this. Couldn't have predicted this at all. Part of it is for me, like any other business in town, it's what parts of my business can work remotely. How many of my staff in reducing the workplace here at the office can work from home? Because I'm not a business that can pause or stop. I can't change delivery dates. I can't all of a sudden pick up criminals every 2 weeks instead of every week. So a lot of my business had to just keep going. The front line, the investigative work, the emergency communication systems, all of that kept going. The pivoting was, how do we keep our place healthy? In the face of what in the beginning was really unknown. We really didn't have a lot of knowledge on how this spread. We didn't have a lot of knowledge on what we needed to do to keep a workplace clean and healthy. Same with everybody else. And so that was the first pivot, was getting people home that could work remotely, reducing the footprint and work here at work, and then making the workplace as healthy as we could through cleaning, and then eventually through masks and other, we call it PPE, personal protection equipment. The challenge for the frontline folk is they always have to deal with uncertainty. But now in COVID, where before we never knew when you pull over a car, who you're pulling over. You never know. Is it somebody that wants to hurt us, or is it somebody that wants to help us? And you never know that. This is the first time that going into people's homes because they're reporting a crime, arresting people, or stopping people for traffic violations, our people ran the risk of bringing COVID home to their families. And how many of the people working here at Greater Sudbury Police Service are living with vulnerable parents, have young children, have people in their family with their own health restrictions. How scary is that you could bring it back and impact your family? So that whole uncertainty, I think, was a real challenge for us. As we started learning what works and what doesn't work, we're thankfully in a position now where, and there's hope. The vaccines are rolling out. Yeah. The vaccines are rolling out here in Sudbury at a rate higher than the rest of the province.
Drive-through vaccination.
Yeah, there was drive-through yesterday. Our folk, the frontline folk were among the first in the first wave, so that was helpful. Our other people are getting picked up now, and stay the course. A couple of more weeks of reducing, the mobility and the gatherings will really help the folk in the ICU and then the hospitals, because they're still feeling the burden overwhelming burden. Surgeries are being delayed. And, if there's anything from the chief of police to your listeners, it's, you got to do this for the right reason, not because I'm going to come along and give you a $750 ticket for gathering with somebody you're not supposed to gather, but because you run the risk of infecting somebody, and that gets them into the hospitals. The doctors and nurses are swamped, and
Yeah.
somebody who's waiting for surgery right now is being delayed years and years and years. And you just really have to ask yourself, you couldn't wait just a couple of more weeks to have that campfire, a couple of more weeks to have that birthday party. Oh, by the way, it's my dog's third birthday party today. Yeah, third birthday. Murphy is 3 years old today, and we can't have puppies over for his party, but we'll do it in 2 weeks.
Right. They had extended the lockdown, the stay at home, because of the May long weekend.
Oh, I don't know that it's official, although all of the indications is it's going to be extended a couple of more weeks anyway.
Right.
We've come this far. We're tired. We're all tired of
Yeah.
what I keep saying is, it's all about what's essential and what's not essential. And oh boy, do I ever miss my non-essential life. I'm sure everybody's the same. We want to
Yes.
just go back to those non-essential things of concerts and movies, and
Yeah.
we just have to
Please.
hang tough for another couple of weeks, and the
No
light is at
kidding.
the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
There's been, you've mentioned so many challenges. What about the triumphs in your field?
Oh, I mean, in our field, triumphs during COVID, triumphs before COVID. Sometimes if you looked at the headlines of some of the media or some of the social media out there, you'd think all is lost, and it isn't. I mean, every day on my desk, I'm getting some note from somebody. Thank you to the police officers who are responding for this, to helping my vulnerable mother, or helping find a lost child. The successes far outweigh the times that challenge us. And I think probably in COVID, the thing that we miss most are the positive interactions, the gatherings with kids, the gatherings with community, all of the things that used to really allow us to interact positively. Police Week is a virtual police week. If you want to see about all of our units, you've got to go on Facebook or online. In the past, we would all gather in one location here in town, and it would be like a carnival, and there'd be face painting, and the kids could interact with officers, and they could see the police dogs, they could see demonstrations.
Yeah.
All of that is when you talk about what are the triumphs, those are the triumphs. Successful prosecutions, successful arrests, high profile arrests. In a perfect world, there would be no crime and we wouldn't have to make the arrest. But in an imperfect world, we have to make the arrests. And without talking about some of the cases that are front and center in the news, you'll know that the dedicated team of investigators we have are leaving no stone unturned and are pushing the envelope day in and day out. Lots of triumphs, lots of success.
Oh, good. I mean, we don't hear about those on the news.
Well, you do. You do. I mean, it's just sometimes I think sometimes, Candace, and you're a real positive person. I think sometimes you have to focus on what's positive, because there is so much noise around the negative. And it's okay. Like, I mean, opinions and diversity of opinions is what makes Canada great. It makes our community great. But don't be afraid to look for the positives and celebrate the positives, because they're out there. The news stories are out there. I watch the news like everybody else, and maybe there's 3 or 4 sort of sad news stories, but there's always 1 or 2 that you go, isn't that fantastic?
I love those. That's what we need to focus on more. If you were to encourage youth to get into law enforcement, how would you go about that? What would you say to them? What are some important facts to note?
Well, I would think almost 100% of the time, people that come to policing, when we ask the question, why do you want to be a police officer? The answer almost universally is, we want to help. And if you like helping people, you're going to love this job because you're always helping people. We continue to say, that we work for our community. We're a service, not a police force. There are times, obviously, when our lives are threatened or the community's lives are threatened, when we have to use force. But the reality is 99.9% of our encounters with the public are positive. We're helping people find their way, navigate the system. Referrals to whether it's addictions services, mental health supports, trying to reduce the burden on the judicial system and instead move out to the community supports that can help people. I also think that, it'd be irresponsible if I didn't acknowledge that we're an organization, we're a service that needs to change. We do.
Okay.
The hiring practices and the systems that were built long ago, and I'll say it, they were probably built by men because there weren't a lot of police women or women in the police services, even as much as 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I was starting out in this profession. It was such a rarity. There certainly wasn't a lot of diversity in policing. So probably a bunch of men that sat around and said, what do we want to do when we hire a police officer? Who do we want? And they probably said things like, we want somebody who's fit and strong. We want somebody that comes from a good family. We want somebody that has post-secondary education. We want somebody that volunteers in the community. We want somebody whose friends haven't been in conflict with the law. Overall, we want this type of a person. And when you stand back and draw that profile, it looks a lot like the people that wrote it, right? Who's
Right.
going to get into that? Well, that was easy access for men. What we have learned is there's been barriers in our recruiting system, in our recruiting processes, barriers in our hiring processes that have presented gender challenges and diversity challenges. At one point in time, and this is recently, like within the last 5 years, the provincial applicant testing system for police officers, only 1 out of 11 female applicants walked away with a certificate to be hired.
Oh, wow.
1 out of 11, yeah.
Why is that?
Because there was so much emphasis on upper body strength and so much emphasis on that system that was built by quite frankly, a bunch of men that said, you got to be strong and to be a police officer, you do have to have strength. But frankly, the majority of our interaction is de-escalated with our words, not with our strength. So we're actually here in Sudbury and across the province really taking a look at how can we make it so that we can open up the doors for others, and then we can be that change that we need to be, because the change has to come from within. And I could spend your whole 30 minutes talking about that. It goes outside though, Candace, because there's stereotyping that goes on outside of my profession that needs to stop. You're a young woman, and I can imagine there's a lot of young women. I've got 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I never said anything to them about a policing career. They ended up in choosing their own career. But how many young girls heard the word policeman at 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old? So just by adding gender to the job title, you're subconsciously screening that career out for a lot of young people who might be making life choices early on. How many parents said to daughters, no daughter of mine is going to be a cop? How many boyfriends or husbands? Because it is still a system where, like it or not, well, I mean, I don't like it, where the gender imbalance is there. And it shouldn't be, right? So that's something that needs to work on outside our police service. also the things where people are saying all cops are crooked and all cops are this. Well, that's pretty tough. So you ask me, what would I say to young people? I would say you need to make your own mind up about whether you can make a difference in this profession, and you can come in and help us help people, because that's what we are, is a helping profession.
Love it. And it has to do with leadership, because you and I more often than not, our conversations revolve around leadership. And in your role, leadership is everything. So how do you encourage your officers to lead with title? Is that is that a challenge?
So so leadership. So I'll start off with a definition that I like to use about leadership. And leadership, I don't know, there's something like 25,000 books on leadership on Amazon, each with their own definition. So, if there was one single answer for leadership, there'd be one book.
Right.
That being said, I like the definition of taking people in a direction that they wouldn't go on their own willingly, right? So 3 parts. So it's got to be leading in a direction, right? And if you're not leading in a direction, then they don't need you. Then people are scattering all around. It's also about new directions, because if they were going to go there anyway, then they don't need a leader either. So you've got to sort of push the envelope, and just as I said there, have that difficult conversation that says, have we got barriers in our system that are barriers to gender, diversity, and all of that? And if you're not going to challenge the status quo and say, we need to go in a different direction, then you're not leading. But the ultimate goal is to have people following you voluntarily, to sort of buy in. And that's where I like to think that leadership is an action. It's not a position. So I see leadership in my organization at all levels. I see leadership in my organization, whether you're wearing a uniform or whether you're not wearing a uniform. We've got one of the only murdered, missing Indigenous women and girls strategies in the country. And that was built and led by 2 Indigenous women. One was a police officer, a constable. The other was a social worker that was working with us. And they worked with the community. It was built grassroots from women in this community, and came up to me and to the Marie, the executive director of the Swakmuk Friendship Center. It wasn't the top-down driven. We didn't come down with 10 commandments and say, do this. We empowered, supported, and enabled leadership at grassroots level to take us in a place that we wouldn't have gone on our own. So for me, that's what it's about. I mean, there's a ton of success stories, and there isn't perfection. That's another thing that you'll hear about me is I don't claim for perfection. I try my best. I've made mistakes along the way. I hope I learn from mistakes along the way. I've got my supporters and I've got my detractors, but I continue to try and lead from the heart and do what the community wants me to do. Because let's be clear, I'm a servant of the community. I've got about 160,000 bosses in the city of Greater Sudbury, and these are the people that I'm trying to keep happy.
I love it. So when we think retirement, what does that mean to you? And is it in the near future? Do we know?
Yeah, well, you know what? They've been trying to get me to retire for since I was first 30 years, because it's a 30-year retirement for eligibility. The only thing I know about retirement is it's as unique as your DNA. So for some people, for some people, retirement is punishment. I'm one of those people that I'm not looking forward to sitting at home and watching The Price is Right all day. No, that's not me.
You're so good at your job.
Well, thank you for that. But at the same time, I also say chiefs of police are like milk. We've got a shelf life. So there will come a time, when probably, hopefully it's at the right time, when succession planning is in place, when when my job here is done. And, you know, and of course, I do report directly to a board. So ultimately, you know, when the board and I have a conversation about, you know, is my work here done? Am I ready to move on? I'm not one of these guys that sits and counts down the days to retirement. I've never had that stopwatch on. And in fact, when I passed that first eligible retirement day, I didn't even recognize it until I got an envelope in the mail from OMERS, the Ontario Municipal Employee Retirement Plan. I looked at it. I turned to my wife and I said, am I eligible for retirement? Like, she said, yeah. Well, geez, it feels like I just started. But
wow.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, you want to you know, finish a career that you're proud of. Right now, you know, it's such a difficult time in policing. It feels like it's the wrong time to retire. You know, I'd love to retire when we've gotten through this pandemic, when our organization has got through the pandemic, when we can get back to some good parts of life. And
some
I
sort
don't
of
know, you're not going to get rid of me that quickly, Candace.
Good. We don't want to. I wish I could have you all day here and just talk about everything, but I have, like, you're a man fulfilling your duties at work, right? Like you,
Right.
a few years ago, you told me that all you wanted for Christmas, do you remember what it was?
No.
No, it was to have your girls and
Yeah.
your wife at home, all under the same roof for Christmas.
Right.
Things have obviously changed since then, but you're just like, it's not just the badge, it's the man behind the badge. So my
Right.
last question, what does legacy mean to you?
Oh, legacy. Yeah. Well, you know, and I think, you know, it's a nice little segue because, yeah,
Oh, good.
this Christmas I didn't have the girls together. I've got one daughter who works in public health in BC. She's working on all the vaccine and stuff out in BC. Another daughter downtown Toronto working in Princess Margaret Hospital in a cancer research center. And my mom, my 89-year-old mom, is still alive. I didn't get to see her at Christmas time either. You know, so the legacy that I would want is, you know, that I've been a great son, a great husband, and a great dad. You know, and if at the same time I've also been a good employee, a good worker, you know, and I've taught my kids good work ethic. You know, you sit back and you say, as a young person starting out, moving on with kids getting older, that's a pretty good legacy to have good, strong family following behind.
That is beautiful. I think we have so much to learn from each other, and I'm so grateful that I know you and I've been able to connect with you over the years, and this is so nice. Thank you so much for having a candid conversation with me today, Paul.
Well, you continue to do great work, inspire people positively. In anything you ask, Candace, I'm there for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, my hat is off to you, Paul. Chief Pederson, everybody.
Okay, it's snowing on May 11th. I'm looking out my window and it's snowing on May 11th, but we're gonna get 20-degree weather in another day, so that's life in Sudbury. So
yes, my gosh, this episode will air the first, if I'm not wrong, the first week of August. So it will be much nicer and sunnier. There are brighter days ahead.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.